All right. Thanks everybody again for joining. So this presentation is about Fulbright grants. There are a few things I want to kind of say right up front about this presentation and how it is in conversation with future presentations that the For Office will be providing. So this is really kind of a basic beginner, it's hard to even call it a crash course on what Fulbright is, fundamentally what the values of the Fulbright kind of grants are and how to approach the process of getting deeper into what Fulbright is all about. Later next month, we will be hosting another information session that gets a little bit more specifically into types of grants. And so that will be something that gives you a little bit more of a sense of how to approach each type of grant. Again, this will be kind of just a basic crash course. What is Fulbright? What is Fulbright all about? What's the history of it and that kind of thing. So I am Scott Clark. I'm Assistant Director of Fellowships in the For Office. Jen Ha is also here. Jen is the Undergraduate Research Advisor in the For Office. Jen, do you want to say hi really quickly?
Hi, everyone. And yeah, like Scott said, I'm the Undergraduate Research Advisor in the For Office. So if you are wanting to get involved in research, and there's a research component or option, I should say, of Fulbright that we'll kind of talk about later in the presentation. But outside of Fulbright, if you are wanting to get some assistance with research at all, you can make an appointment with me. Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. And I would emphasize that Fulbright advising in the For Office is a collaborative effort. So I will tend to be kind of a primary point of contact. And because we work with upwards of 20, sometimes more than that, number of students on Fulbright grants, we inherently are a team, right? We work collaboratively to support students through this process. So nationally competitive fellowships like Fulbright offer these things among many others. So Fulbright is about postgraduate opportunities, which include teaching, include graduate school enrollment, and include research study. Fundamentally, this is all about international exchange. And so study abroad, work abroad, and language skills tend to factor into an application process. And in many cases, Fulbright and fellowships like it offer the means to pursue your passions in greater depth. Very often that means that it's taking something that you've worked on, experimented with, dived into in your undergraduate years, and fellowships give you resources, right, means to go deeper into that area post-graduation. Some fellowships also apply to your undergraduate years. So Fulbright, jumping right in, like I said before, Fulbright is fundamentally about increasing mutual understanding between people of the US and people of other countries through exchange. Fulbright was founded as a program in 1946. It was founded by the US Congress, named after Senator William Fulbright, who is really kind of an interesting character. You should read up on him as a figure if you're interested in Fulbright grants. Kind of a controversial figure in some ways. Had a lot of really powerful anti-Vietnam War statements and was a little bit less of a, what we would consider today, a enlightened individual when it comes to civil rights. But he is the namesake for these programs. Fulbright is the flagship education and exchange program. It's run by the Department of State, but it's administered by binational commissions, if there is one in the country that you're applying to. In cases where there is no such commission, it's run by a US embassy in the country. So I would actually pause here and just kind of take a look at the images on this picture. Fulbright is a lot of things. Okay, there are these different types of grants. Each grant has all kinds of different types of opportunities built into those grants. So I guess I would welcome folks who are present for this presentation to kind of share with us, what do you see here, and how does what you see here inform what Fulbright might be all about? Anybody want to chime in and take a stab at that?
It looks like a wide scope of research and a large variety of experiences. It looks like it's from parts all over the globe.
Definitely, yeah. Say more. What do you see? What kinds of experiences? So you see some research. What else?
Well, it goes from technology and robotics and sciences. You got like they could be teaching humanities on the bottom left, but looks very in a very personal setting. You got like the arts. It looks like someone's studying a glacier. There's an elephant. So
yeah,
just
exactly.
like lots of diversity as well.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. You see, even within kind of these group settings, in the lower left, you see kind of a teacher or a teaching assistant at the front of a classroom. In the middle, on the bottom there, you see somebody who's really kind of immersed in the population of students who they might be teaching. And then, like you said, you see research, you see kind of field-based animal wildlife experiences. It runs the gamut. Also, right, upper left is kind of a traditional travel picture, right? This is really about getting out there and seeing the world, understanding other people, other places, but also seeing the world, right? Seeing natural landscapes, appreciating kind of the natural and geographic diversity that exists within a country and how that informs national identities and cultures. So jumping to eligibility, who can apply for a Fulbright? This is open to graduating seniors, and you're in the right place, since before we started the recording, folks who are here shared that you are current juniors, rising seniors. This program is also open to recent graduates. Recent is a somewhat of a vague term. A rule of thumb that Fulbright goes by is you need to have less than 7 years of professional working experience in order to be eligible for most types of Fulbright US student grants. In terms of eligibility, you do need to be a US citizen by the application deadline. So somebody who's watching this recording who isn't currently a US citizen but is working towards that, you absolutely can apply if you intend to have all of your ducks in a row by the application deadline in October. You need a bachelor's degree or equivalent. You cannot have a doctorate, and there are a lot of country-specific requirements which are available on individual award websites. And so that is an important part of this process, is taking a deep dive into countries and programs. And I'll speak more about that shortly. The US student program, which I should say is an umbrella term that encompasses all of these types of grants. So when I say all, you'll see that study/research is considered one grant. So there are graduate enrollment grants where you actually enroll in a graduate degree overseas. And then there are research grants, which are more independent. These are an area where Jen has some expertise, and as undergraduate research advisor, will be supporting students through the application processes. The other type of grant is the English teaching assistantship, where you work as a teaching assistant in classrooms abroad, which can run from kindergarten all the way through university level. You see a little bit about each type of grant. Both tend to be in the 8 to 10 month range. There are exceptions, but the vast majority fall within that span. And importantly, Fulbright always is emphasizing that students of the arts are very much included in study and research grants. That absolutely is something that is eligible for both study and research grants. Jen, anything you want to add at this point about study or research, or does that cover it?
I think that really covers it, but kind of like what you said, Scott, earlier, how this is a team approach for students that are interested in the research grant part, they can definitely come to me and we can kind of talk through what kind of research interests you have and where the best program would be and how to find faculty that are doing that research at those institutions overseas.
Exactly. Thanks, Jen. Okay, so you'll see that ETA grants, English Teaching Assistantship, and open research study projects have some things in common. And again, we will be delineating between these types of programs sometime around mid-April. So stay tuned for more information about information sessions on that. In all these cases, Fulbright looks for some version of priorities for a project that you want to do. There are a few exceptions on ETA grants where you don't design a side project. In most cases, you're asked to speak to something that you are curious about and want to explore more. In open study and research projects, that really is the heart of the application. Aside from meeting and working and living and learning with folks in a host country, all of these grants also facilitate cultural exchange. That is really what it's all about when it comes to Fulbright. They also promote mutual understanding. Fulbright is looking to get folks out in other countries and importantly, bring folks to the United States from other countries for the purposes of fostering mutual understanding, for bringing back to their home countries everything that they've learned about folks, about institutions, about culture and history in the country that they did a Fulbright grant in. So a little bit of a hard pivot here, but I wanted to share really briefly some information about UVM alums who have recently won Fulbrights. So Fulbright calls its winners finalists. So when you see Fulbright finalist, Ben Will won a Fulbright just last year. He actually, as we speak, is in Heidelberg, Germany, doing research related to virology. Ben was a honors college alum and a peer mentor and a beloved member of the UVM community. Paige Roussel also graduated just last year. She is doing an English teaching assistantship grant to South Korea. She was a linguistics major, and you'll see that she kind of spoke to something that reads really well on a Fulbright application, which is not just, this is what I want to teach, but this is how I want to teach, right? She said that being a linguist allows me to offer a unique perspective on language acquisition and how languages should be taught. Paige also did a summer language immersion program, I believe in Middlebury, at the Middlebury Language Institute prior to her senior year. And Karina Ispel, class of 2020, she is currently, as we speak, in Uruguay, enrolled in a graduate program doing research on the agroecology movement. So that gives you a little bit of a flavor. There's a lot more that we could share, and we will happily do so for the types of interests and experience and vocations that Fulbright applicants from UVM have led with. And by the way, one thing that's important to think about is, in many cases, someone like Ben Teasdale, who graduated back in 2015, takes Fulbright and uses it as a springboard, right? He won a Fulbright to Nepal in 2015, and then he pursued some other really competitive and prestigious opportunities like the Gates Cambridge and the Knight Hennessy. So he earned graduate degrees after returning from Nepal based on kind of his experience, his leadership experience, and brought that into these really competitive environments. Okay, back to kind of the nuts and bolts of what Fulbright offers for grant benefits. So ground for Berkshire, you can travel to and from the country that you are applying to if you win a Fulbright grant on the Fulbright's dime. There is a monthly stipend. It's always important to kind of do some budgeting and understand what the size of those stipends are. They do vary, and they are generally shared costs between the US government and governments abroad. And so it might not be a huge income, and there are ways in which you can kind of think about how to supplement that stipend. There's accident and sickness insurance, and then you can see a lot of other possible benefits that are offered according to folks' unique circumstances. So folks who are traveling with dependents, sometimes there is financial assistance to make sure that folks' families are able to go with them and live comfortably. There are disability-related accommodations. That's something that Fulbright has really prioritized in recent years, in recognizing that that is an affirmative requirement, right? That folks with disabilities need to be accommodated and supported in order to participate equally in these types of grants. Post-grant benefits, you get a network, right? In a word, there is all kinds of benefits to being part of a Fulbright network after graduation. Fulbright is active on LinkedIn. There's also the Fulbright Association, which is made up of Fulbright alums. And there are really, really powerful opportunities to connect with other Fulbright alums and make professional connections, also in some cases make social connections. The application includes these elements. I won't read them word by word. The important piece to know is that the statement of grant purpose and the personal statement are in some ways the heart and soul of the application. The statement of grant purpose is either 1 or 2 single-spaced pages. The personal statement is always one page, single-spaced. And these are the places where you both tell your story and describe to Fulbright readers, reviewers, who you are, what makes you unique, what you bring to your application, right? Why you want to go abroad and either teach or do research or enroll in graduate study. The statement of grant purpose and the personal statement, you get a lot of support from us around. So I'll speak more in a minute about timelines, deadlines for those documents, but just know that this is somewhere where we lean in and work with students, both one-on-one and in group settings. If you intend to apply for a research grant, you'll notice number 6 is an affiliation letter, which is a really important component because you need a letter of affiliation from somebody in your country of destination expressing that they will support you in specific ways in your research. So we can help with seeking out this kind of a letter. Your faculty advisors can also lend a lot of support and tap into their own networks, but that is a really important part of a Fulbright research application. Okay, moving right along. Factors in selection. I'll highlight just a few of these. First of all, you'll notice that something that we haven't talked about is a hard and fast GPA requirement. So I guess I will share that academic merit matters, and there is no minimum GPA requirement for a Fulbright application per se. Instead, folks are looking for these kinds of things. Quality and feasibility of the proposal. That mostly applies to research and graduate grants, but it certainly can also apply to ETA grants. Personal qualifications matter. Remember that this is an ambassadorial fellowship, right? So it's sending students abroad to essentially be cultural ambassadors of the United States. And so Fulbright is looking for the ways in which somebody will represent the United States transparently, honestly, positively, authentically, for the purposes of strengthening international relations. Language preparation, there's a lot of information about that on the Fulbright website. If you're curious about language requirements, I'm also happy to speak to that during the Q&A at the end. The preference factors as established by the Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board. That's another important piece, both for you to know whether a country is a good fit for you, and also to go out there and see specifically where are the countries that are looking, that are hungry for an area in which you have expertise. Okay. Moving right along, you'll see kind of a quick note on timeline. This is from the Fulbright organization. I've updated this with kind of basics about our timeline at UVM, but I will just move right along to the fact that May 1st is the intent to apply for the UVM internal application. In other words, in order for us to be able to support you the way that is needed to put forward a successful Fulbright application, which success means a lot of different things, right? Success can mean simply applying, right? Applying is an achievement. But in order for us to kind of shepherd you through this process and support you in articulating your goals and interests, we do need folks to declare that they are intending to apply by May 1st. So there's some information here on how to access the intent to apply form. You can always email me. My email address is on this screen if you need access to that form. A couple of other just really brief notes here is that over the summer, June 1st and July 1st are a couple of deadlines for essay statements, essays, so that we can offer you the feedback that you need. Again, with 20-ish, 25, sometimes even more applicants each year, we really need to work with you over the summer months to be able to support you for putting forward that application. I will note, if you are a current sophomore and are watching this recording, this is just kind of an FYI, right? It allows you to plan ahead to your junior into your senior year and know what's coming, right? So you can feel free to reach out to us still if you're a sophomore and thinking about Fulbright down the line. If you're a junior and a rising senior, class of 2024, take note of these deadlines. How to apply, there's lots of information here on how to use the Fulbright website. The one really important piece that I'll share more about is the webinars. Fulbright hosts all kinds of webinars themselves, and it really is a good idea to get information straight from Fulbright, straight from the Institute for International Education, which again administers the Fulbright grants. There's no reason not to tap in directly to the source, right? You can get lots of information from me and from the FOR office. We are always happy to help, and you can put on a 30-minute recording while you're folding laundry and hear lots of really good information at this website too. And I've just kind of screenshotted a few of the places here where you can find programs. Here is kind of a glimpse at the way in which you can navigate to find different webinars. That's the URL for finding the recorded webinars below. And with that, I will pause and say thanks for joining. Thanks for watching the recording, if that's how you're accessing this information. Are there any questions? I flew through that, and that was a lot of information. So I'm very happy to answer any questions that are coming in. And I will note that I can't see raised hands or the chat. And so if you have a question, please jump in.
Could you explain the monthly stipend a little bit and how that varies? Well, maybe I was going to ask like how it varies from country to country, but I guess that would be too long of an answer. But maybe like explain the stipend. And would we receive like the stipend at the end of the month or like payment prior to entering the foreign country?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a good example of the kind of thing that can vary really widely. And when I say widely, I mean really widely, right? Countries manage this kind of a thing in their own ways according to their own processes, which, by the way, are sometimes culturally derived, right? And deciding how to approach things like payment. What I will share is that the cost is shared generally between the US government and the destination country. It is meant to support your living. It's not an income, but it is absolutely, generally speaking, enough to support your cost of living during the duration of your grant. There are ways to apply for additional funding. Fulbright encourages that, but that's not to say that you will not be able to kind of meet your basic needs on a Fulbright grant. You can absolutely meet your basic needs and It is also derived according to cost of living. And so sometimes even in the same country, if there's a area of the country that is much more expensive, that in some cases is factored in. But again, that's something that you want to kind of look into on an individual basis based on where you're looking to apply. Great question. Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the personal statement and the statement of grant purpose. Is there anywhere that we can find more like specific guidelines on what they're looking for us to write about? I know you mentioned, like our intention of why we want to go and things like that, but are there any like specific questions that we need to answer in these drafts?
Definitely, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that. So I would answer that a few ways. One, the application actually went live today. It was scheduled to go live tomorrow. It is accessible, so you can start poking around and taking a look and registering on the Fulbright website to be able to access those application materials. Throughout the summer months, we as an office, the FOR office, will be hosting workshops. Probably some of them will be online, some of them will be in person. Those workshops are about things like writing a personal statement, writing a statement of grant purpose. We also are happy to share past essays, so essays that folks in the past have written. That's something that we can always share with you to get you a sense of how people put forward kind of their goals, their interests, and what plays well in an application. Other questions on the personal statement or the statement of grant purpose? Okay. And I will also say folks who apply for a Fulbright have those workshops where you will hear from us about best practices, how to approach essays, how to tell your story. Fundamentally, that's what this is about, right? Is how to tell your story, how to describe your experience. We also are available one-on-one. In most cases, students meet with us multiple times over the course of the summer and into the fall to get guidance on their application materials. That's not required. In most cases, students come and seek us out for some guidance around this. Other questions?
Just a quick question on the application deadline. Is it the same every year?
So good question. So it's about the same every year. So the exact deadline by which you have to put forward the national application, so actually submitting your application and sending it off to Fulbright, that fluctuates. It's described as early to mid-October. This year it's October 10th, and we are saying, please, everyone submit by October 6th, right? So that you give yourself a buffer and everybody's in, and that there are no issues. There, in the past, have been some technical issues with systems crashing.
Okay, so it's like before the summer starts generally is when you have to submit that, and then you will continue with that process until October.
Exactly. So May 1st means I intend to apply for this. You get into our pipeline. Some students are already in the Fulbright pipeline, so to speak, because they've expressed interest. May 1st is the deadline by which you kind of say, I'm up for this. I don't know. I don't have all the questions answered. I don't know exactly what the nature of my research grant proposal will be, but I know enough to know that I want to do this. And so between May 1st and October 6th, there are all of these intermediary deadlines, and the campus deadline is September 1st. That's when we ask you to have all of your materials done, drafted, and then in September, there are interviews with UVM faculty and staff. And so those interviews are not informal, but they are not overly formal either, in the sense that they are meant to be supportive. So they are meant to be supportive and challenging in helping you articulate in your application your goals, your interests, your plans for a Fulbright credit. Other questions? These are great. I really appreciate these questions.